Welcome back, everyone. You are watching the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed, I invite you to do so. It's easy to click the tab there, and you can even click on the little bell symbol if you want to know when a new video is going to be posted. This is a video that I'm making while I still have the motor of my white 568 out. I showed in an earlier video how to remove the motor or to get it out of its housing, because of course it's by the 60s they're starting, not all machines had this, but they're starting to encase the motor and cover it, which is fine, keeps some of the dust off, yes, but I just had to get the motor to come out, and I don't know if you saw the video, you would see me tugging. When I tug on something and it doesn't want to move, I stop, because it's trying to tell me, don't do that. We're not ready to come out yet. And of course, I showed you all that there is a cord bracket under the motor. Very important, it keeps the cord where it needs to be and out of the way. And I just loosened it and was able to get the cord to come up, and things came right exactly as they should. Now, what I'm going to show you today, I've shown on a few occasions, but I thought I would show this again. This is one of the most important things I think anyone who is new to restoring sewing machines, or maybe you have an old machine and you want to do maintenance yourself. Maybe you can't find someone locally to do it, sadly. If in any case, sewing machine motors, typically, they require lubrication. Some of the user manuals used to say once a year, but this is, keep in mind, this was for people who were sewing. Households used to sew all kinds of clothes for the family. So sewing machines, if someone enjoyed sewing, I don't think the owner of this machine particularly enjoyed sewing because they didn't spend many hours on it. I can tell that by what I've shown in how little carbon was actually on the commutator of this motor. But the manual would sometimes say, please place 1 drop of sewing machine oil once per year. And it's very important to understand, while there were some motors, earlier designs, and these were mostly Singer and white rotary, which was a whole different machine design than the one you see here, they took a certain grease and they had wicks, and that grease would be used to lubricate the bushings or bearings of the motor. Most motors that look like this do not use grease. Do not put grease in your sewing machine motor. It doesn't belong there. Unless a manual tells you that it needs grease, don't use grease. Do not try to rethink what the engineers planned for. They were very smart folks and they knew what they were doing. Now, your sewing machine motor has a shaft, and that shaft is obviously, you have your belt pulley that's connected. That shaft runs all the way through and then comes on the other end. And it rests inside what you and I might call a sleeve or a collar. Sometimes they are made of bronze, sometimes they're made of steel, and they're called bushings. And a bushing is basically, it's something that the drive shaft of the motor has to have something to hold on to. Think of a rolling pin if you rolled out pie crust. I actually have. I love baking. So that's just the only metaphor that came to mind. Maybe it's just because I'm hungry. In any case, some sewing machine motors did not have a way to be lubricated. They were called sealed or lubricated for life, which, any of you who know anything about planned obsolescence know that that's a crock, right? Everything that's going to last needs to be able to be maintained or repaired. But I'm digressing. So this motor, early 60s, has what I often see. You'll see this not just with this brand, but almost every other brand. Make sure, and I know I've mentioned this in other videos, but there are just certain things that bear repeating. When you look at the sides of your motor, on this end you see the blades of a fan, right? And that fan turns with the shaft and it helps pull air through the motor to keep it cool. There are openings on both ends of the motor. I got to be careful. I don't want to, twist my cord into oblivion here. There are all kinds of openings. They are not for oiling. Almost all of the openings here are never put oil in them. These large slits are for air movement. These two pieces here, these are not holes. They're actually rivets. Well, I take that back. that is, these are actually open, but they're rivets that have to do with how the motor is constructed. Do not put oil in here either. These are bolts and nuts that hold the shell of the motor. Is like a clamshell and holds that together. Do not put oil here. Do not put oil here or here. Do not squirt oil just anywhere hoping you hit the right spot. Do not. You will destroy the motor and you will be very unhappy when you realize that this wonderful motor quality, you are the one who led to its demise. This motor has 2 spots. And almost every sewing machine motor has 2 spots. Now let's zoom back for you. See if we can get in here. Going to change the angle just a bit so you can see. Now, normally on both sides, typically if you have this, you'll have it on both sides. I want you to look at the end of this motor, and right here, that little tiny spot, maybe zoom in even a little bit more for you. This little spot, that's where you're going to put 1 drop of oil. Now, I will probably put 2 because this motor has not had anything in 20 years. But if you've been using your sewing machine, do not put just put 1. And you're going to put it right there, right? And on the other side, what do we have? We have another one. I'm going to turn it in such a way, being mindful of the cord that is attached here. You can see this one, and I'm going to put a drop. If you are doing yours for the first time, let's get my cotton swab here to mop up that excess. I do not want any excess oil going anywhere. There's only 2 spots on this entire motor that are going to get 1 drop of sewing oil, and I just shown them to you. Here's one, and here's one. Now, 1 drop is what's required. I have seen on some of the Kenmore motors that look like these, they'll even have a little, they were so nice, they put a little red arrow and it said oil, or just a red arrow sometimes. And that was to kind of help you not do something you shouldn't be doing. Now, I'm going to add 1 more drop. Why am I doing that? Because I don't think this motor ever got oiled after it left the factory. Now, once you've done that, you can do this in between the oilings. Let's come back out. I'm going to just turn the motor pulley. And what that's going to do, it's going to help pull. Remember, there's no pump here. You just put a drop of oil, it falls with gravity. And then as I turn the pulley, I'm helping to draw that oil into, where's it going? It's going between the shaft and in here, in this section, is where the bushing is, right? That's the collar, right? So the bushing or collar surrounds the shaft. The oil goes from that little spot, that little port there, tiny, and it trickles down on, and it gets into the inside of the bushing, not on the outside. It will go down into the bushing, and it will get between the bushing and the drive shaft. And that's what you want. You want lubrication there. If you do not have those holes, some motors don't come with them, right? This lifetime lubrication silliness. I'm going to put 1 drop right here. Now that drop is going to wick. I don't know if you saw, but you don't really see much of it because it went right in. I kind of held it up, and as I put the drop there, it wicked in so that it is now between the drive shaft and the bushing. And again, just do a little turning here, and that's fine. Be careful when you lubricate. If you do it that way, just 1 drop, and do not get it on your pulley, right? In fact, before I set this motor back in and start putting the belt back on, I will always take a clean cotton swab with alcohol, and I will make sure that my pulley, this pulley has, I can't hardly see anything on it. I will make sure that this pulley is cleaned of any oil or or dirt or anything else, because you do not want a pulley that's dirty when you put your belt on, because then your belt's not going to get a proper level of friction. So I hope this was helpful. Again, I know that sometimes I may have spoken about this procedure in the past, but this is one thing that can really, it can make for a really bad day. If you find out that, oh, I was just trying to lubricate the motor because, you know, the machine's been sitting for years, and I've seen this where people squirted sewing oil all over a motor and ruined it. I have one now that I'm going to have to replace because I don't feel secure using a motor that has oil where it shouldn't be. So it's not hard. You just have to know. And again, with many of these motors, unlike the Kenmore I mentioned, and not all Kenmore motors do this either, it was just a few of them for whatever reason, this tiny little hole, right? Now, if you have the manual, if the manual reminds you, they don't all, it might tell you where this is, but you have to know where to look for it. All these other areas of the machine, no, just don't, right? Less is more here, folks. I think that after this motor, unless it surprises me, and it could, but I'm hoping that this motor will be ready. The machine's not. In fact, the machine's not even really turning. So stay tuned as I go to get the motor back into the machine. I'll also remind you all that this excess cord, will actually be pulled down through the bottom of the machine, put back into its little bracket. Most machines don't have this extra cord step, but this machine does. It's not hard. You just need to know. If you get to that stage where I showed you earlier in an earlier video, and you're trying to you've gotten the bolts off, you know, the bolts have come off, and you think, well, why isn't the motor coming out? Don't force it. Machines speak to you if you listen to them. They tell you when they're ready to do something, or they might be telling you to please be patient, as my Thoth Model 6 told me when I realized that its stitch length control was stuck. So patience is a virtue, as they say, and that is especially true when you're restoring anything, including vintage sewing machines. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.